Hey folks, I'm attorney Roger P. Foley, and today I want to talk to you about how do you handle a case when your client is a drug addict, when the client's rational thinking is non-existent, when the only thing that he or she wants to do is get out of jail, to bond out so they can go use again. What do you do? Well, some attorneys might try to get them a time-served sentence where they're instantly a convicted felon, but they're not on probation. You might go, well, geez, the convicted felon parts, that's not what I want. I don't want my son or daughter or family member to be a convicted felon. Yeah, but you start to weigh. You go, well, do I want them placed on probation? If you place someone on probation who has a drug addiction, even an alcohol addiction, right? You are setting someone up for failure. They're not going to win, right? You can't put someone on probation when they're addicted to drugs and or alcohol, because in that time when they have the fight with their boyfriend, their girlfriend, their husband, their wife, when they get irritated at the job, whatever it is that ticks them off, that turns that little screw to make them go use again, right? You don't know what it is. You don't know what that thing is that's going to set that person off, that's going to put them in a depression, that's going to put them in a place where they just say, oh, I just want to get away and I want to shoot or I want to snort, right? Because if that happens while they're on probation, what happens? You know what happens, folks? Listen close. You know what happens? Prison! That's what happens. Right? Because when you violate your probation, the standard is the court only has to go, it's a little bit, is he guilty? Yeah, it's a little bit more than 50%. And then they can send your loved one to prison for whatever the original sentence was that they were on probation. So what's the key in all of this? If you have a client that's an addict, and trust me, we have lots of clients that have drug addiction problems and alcohol addiction problems. The first thing that you try to do is get them treatment. You try to convince them. Now, that's extremely difficult, and will you fail a lot of times? Absolutely, right? But just giving them a time-served sentence or placing them on probation, it's just not a smart way to do it. You know, that they have, in Broward County, they have post-conviction drug court, and it's a great idea, and it helps a lot of people. In Palm Beach, they haven't had it, but you know, I'm optimistic that someone will understand it and will push it through, because we really do need post-conviction drug court. That means if you've already been convicted of a crime, as long as it's not a super aggressive crime, like an armed robbery or something really bad. As long as your score points, I believe it's as long as you score under, I don't know what it is. I think it's like 30 points or something like that on the Florida Punishment Code, then you can enter drug court. Now, you may not get the case dismissed. You may end up with a withhold of adjudication, or depending on how they do it in that jurisdiction. But the treatment is where you got to push people towards treatment. Look, everyone goes, treatment. Yeah, treatment centers are bad. 95% of them, I say it all the time, 95% of them are just taking your money, taking the insurance company's money. But that's not my concern. What is my concern? My concern is giving my client an opportunity to succeed, right? When someone's addicted to drugs, they don't trust anybody else. They're paranoid, right? No one generally trusts them, right? They need someone to trust them. You know, they need someone to listen to them, to hear them out, to understand what they're going through. And it's difficult, but all you can do is open your heart to the person and try to push them in the right direction. You try to just gently nudge them, right? Just nudge them a little bit to explain to them, hey, you don't want to be a convicted felon. If you're placed on probation and you violate, you're going to go to prison. You gotta nudge them into treatment. They gotta want to help themselves, right? Because mom, dad, brother, sister, husband, wife, aunt, and uncle, all of us together can't convince an addict to do something an addict doesn't want to do, but you have to try. you have to make the effort. You can't just go, well, they're going to do what they're going to do. Well, that's one way of thinking about it. But at my law office, we try to convince them by using, common sense. Obviously their thoughts or their ability to make decisions is impaired, right? When you're on drugs, your thought process is my next fix, not what's the best thing for my future life, because they're not seeing what their future is 10 years, because they don't know if they're going to make it till next week. So anyway, the whole point of this video is when someone is being charged with possession of narcotics, when they're addicted, when they're being charged with crimes that stem from their addiction, is to first try to get help. Try to get them into treatment. If they're going to be sentenced, a sentence that revolves around treatment is the best way. Again, I know there's going to be people, I know there's going to be haters that are going to go, but listen, if you really care about your fellow man, if you care about mankind, we got to get past these drug addictions. We gotta open the doors to get these people help. And I'm not talking about just making money, to get them. I'm saying, like, really, you got to love them and you got to care about them enough to make a difference, to steer them the right way. Because quite frankly, it's very easy to get frustrated, right? Like, hey, this is the right way to do. I don't care, Mr. Foley. I'm not. Oh, you're the worst lawyer. Oh, my friend's lawyer got him time served. Well, if you want time served, I'm probably not your guy, because I know that it's going to ruin your life just, few months later, a few years later. Time served is, if you've already been a multiple convicted felon, well, then time served is probably a great sentence, if you're guilty and if you can't win on a technicality or through some sort of diversionary program. If you're a multiple convicted felon, well, yeah, time served is a great sentence. If you're not, and you only have misdemeanors on your record, you don't want a conviction. You do not want a conviction. A drug conviction is going to get you, your license suspended in Florida, revoked for a year. You're not going to be able to drive. Obviously, that's the least of your problems, but so many things, leasing and renting properties. So anyway, I'm here to talk to you about drug charges and how to handle them. If you or someone you know have been charged with some sort of drug charge and you're addicted to drugs, seek out an attorney that looks for treatment. Someone like myself. There are a lot of attorneys that will try to help you. There's a lot of them that'll just, I can't speak for those guys. I know attorneys, we all have this bad reputation, but there's a lot of good attorneys out there. Talk to your attorney. If you're in the South Florida area and you need help, contact my office. I'm attorney Roger P. Foley. Thanks for listening.